So what's the best hiking footwear for you? Is it boots? Trail runners? Hiking shoes? Okay, first of all, let's get one thing straight. I cannot tell you what the best hiking shoe for you is going to be, and neither can anyone else. And if they say they can, they're just lying to you. What I will tell you in this video is how you can find your perfect hiking shoe. I've spent over a decade hiking and backpacking. Here's what I've learned about footwear. First of all, let's talk about feet and the variables there and why there is no one-size-fits-all solution for this. Everyone's foot is different. Some people have wide feet like me. Some people have more narrow feet. Arches can be flat, they can be high, or they can be normal. A lot of variables there. Feet also change over time. I know for me, my feet have actually gone up 2 sizes in the last decade. People are also out there hiking in all different types of areas and terrain. I hike mainly in mountain terrain, which can be very rocky. Other people may be hiking in more boggy terrain where it's wet, it's soft, and they're gonna have different needs. I'm going to tell you how to sort through it all and find shoes that are really going to work for you. A little later on, I'll also tell you about my favorite hiking shoes. There are 3 main options when it comes to hiking shoes. Number 1 is trail runners. These are suitable for someone that likes lightweight footwear and may alternate between running and walking on their hike. Trail runners typically have a little bit of a softer sole, but they're gonna have great traction for varying terrain. These shoes also leave your ankles uncovered, which is great for mobility. The second one, and I feel like your classic option for hiking, is gonna be a hiking boot. Hiking boots are gonna be designed to handle a rougher terrain. They're going to have a little bit of a firmer sole to them, so you're not going to be really feeling the objects beneath your feet very much. And they also provide excellent support for your ankle. These boots are usually made with very durable materials, so they're going to last a long time. However, they are heavier and they can restrict your mobility when you're doing things like scrambling. Third is hiking shoes, a great middle ground option. Hiking shoes offer more support and stability than a trail runner, but they're still lighter than a hiking boot. Typically, they offer a low cut and they're gonna have a semi-flexible midsole, which is gonna be great for day hiking. Now let's talk about the details, and we'll start with material types. You've got full grain leather. That is gonna have great abrasion resistance. It's gonna be fairly weather resistant, and it's gonna have good durability. However, it is pretty heavy and it's less breathable than some of the other options out there. They also require regular maintenance, which is definitely something to think about when you're choosing your shoes. Split grain leather is a type of leather that's typically combined with nylon or nylon mesh. This makes it lighter weight and more ventilated than a traditional full grain leather. It involves the separation of the coarser inner part of the cowhide from the sleeker exterior, which does reduce the cost. The trade-off is that these boots are less resistant to wear and they are less water resistant as well. Nubuck leather is a form of full grain leather that looks like suede. It's still durable and resistant to weather and more flexible than a full grain leather. Synthetics are materials like polyester, nylon, and faux leather, and these are probably the most common thing now to find hiking boots and shoes made out of. These boots are lighter, they tend to dry quicker, and they also can be cheaper. Now that you know about the different types of materials, let's move on to the features that you may find. There are options for waterproof or non-waterproof boots. That could be Gore-Tex or another brand, or no waterproofing at all. Shanks. They're supposed to give some stiffness to the sole and provide stability on rough terrain. When it comes to lacing, you have the option of a quick lace system or a traditional lacing system. The quick lace system is really convenient, but it takes away your option to do any different type of lacing if you may need to switch something up to suit your foot. There are all types of different treads as well. Something like a Salomon Speedgoss is going to have really hyper aggressive thread, but it's gonna wear down pretty quickly as well. Toe caps. Some hiking shoes, runners, and boots offer a little bit of toe protection so that it protects your toes from rocks, roots, or other trail obstacles. And if you are super clumsy, like me, then you may really like that. Toe caps. Some shoes have toe protection. That was weird. Toe protection sounds weird. All right, let's talk about color. This is something that I feel like is not brought up very often when we're talking about hiking shoes, but it should be. A darker shoe is going to be hotter, but again, there's a trade-off for this because it's also going to dry a lot faster. A lighter color shoe, on the other hand, is going to be cooler when you're walking, but it's not going to dry out as quickly. Okay, so using all of that information that we just learned, let's talk about how to narrow down your shoe selection. Start by determining what type of environment you're going to be hiking in most frequently. That alone is going to help you with a lot of your decision making. Let's say you hike primarily out in the Pacific Northwest and you're new to hiking. You're probably going to want a mid-weight waterproof hiking boot. Next, think about your pace. Are you hiking at a pretty normal walking pace? Are you running? Are you fast walking? Most hiking boots that I've had are terrible to run in, and I have done a little bit of running in some of them. If you are trying to move really quickly or you're mixing in some running, that's where trail runners or hiking shoes are going to shine. If you know that you're gonna have a really heavy pack, or let's say you haven't really built up any ankle strength yet, that's where hiking boots are gonna be the way to go. When deciding on the material that you wanna buy, think about how often you want to replace your shoes and think about how much you're willing to put into the maintenance. It'll be a little bit of a time investment if you get something that's a leather. There's no wrong or right answer here, but think about what's going to fit in your budget and what's going to fit in your schedule. Think about how much your feet sweat. Do your feet sweat a lot? If they do, you're going to want a really breathable shoe. And of course, let's not forget about personal preference. What actually feels good on your foot? Now let's talk about fit. There should not be excess room side to side in the foot box. Extra room is going to allow your foot to move around too much, and that's going to cause blistering. You also don't want compression on the sides of your feet because that's going to lead to aching and discomfort. You do need just a little bit of room here because your feet are going to swell a little bit when you're doing any type of strenuous activity, and you're also going to have your foot spread out a little bit on each step. You also want just enough space to wiggle your toes a little bit so that they can move around while you're hiking and stabilize you. At the end of the shoe, you're going to want about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of space, which is usually about a thumb's width. The heel of the shoe needs to fit really well with your specific foot shape. You don't want to have too much heel slippage. This can lead to all kinds of pain. It can hurt your Achilles, and it can lead to blisters. The last thing when it comes to sizing is making sure that you're trying on both shoes. Most people have one foot that's a little bit bigger than the other foot. So make sure that you're trying on both shoes and go with the size that fits your larger foot a little bit better. With all of that in mind, unfortunately, genetics still do matter. So some of us are just more prone to blisters than others. If you're unfortunate like me, check out my video on how to prevent blisters. Before we get into my favorite shoes, let me give you a few small tips that's going to help you elongate the lifespan of your shoes. Do not leave them out in extreme heat or extreme cold for an extended amount of time. So that means like don't leave them in your car all winter or summer. This can cause the materials to break down prematurely. When you get back from an outing, clean your shoes off a little bit. You can take a soft brush and you can brush them off. If they're a leather material, you can take a damp cloth, use something that's soft, and wipe them off. Specifically for synthetics, they usually have a lot of little tiny holes, so a brush is going to be a better option for cleaning them than a rag. Whenever your shoes get wet, make sure you dry them out using a shoe dryer. This is going to dry them really, really slowly and at a very low temperature so that it doesn't impact the longevity of the shoe. All right, let's talk about my favorite shoes. It took me so long to try a pair of Altras, but like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, my feet have grown 2 sizes over the last decade, so that has changed the type of shoe that I need. I used to use Salomon trail runners all the time, but now that my feet are so wide, I really can't even fit into them anymore. So I went into REI and I just started trying on a bunch of different shoes. I tried on boots, I tried on runners, and finally when I tried on some Altras, I was like, okay, maybe there actually is something to this. So without further ado, this is my current favorite pair of hiking, backpacking, running, everything shoes. And these ones are maybe halfway through their lifespan. Not really sure. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But these are the Lone Peak 8, and specifically the 8 because I have found one thing that I don't like about the Ultras, which is that between the different models, they fit really differently. So like the Lone Peak 7, I cannot wear, but the Lone Peak 8 is my favorite shoe, which totally makes sense, right? So I'm not a fan of that, but my feet love these shoes. Runner up to those right now, pun intended, they're another trail runner, is the, well, that's a fail because I don't know which ones these are. So I will find that out, and then I will put that in the description of my video, I guess, because I don't know, as it turns out. I thought it would say the name on it, but it doesn't, so. But these are what they look like, and they are pretty good too. They're another Ultra trail runner. I do really like them. These ones have a different sole. Let me show you that. So they have a little bit of a different sole, and I think I do prefer this lug pattern over here a little bit more than this one. This one's a little bit closer together. It honestly feels pretty hardy, like it's not gonna wear down very quickly, but this one's a little more aggressive, and I don't know, it just is really good. It's a Max Track. That's what this one is. Now for hiking boots, I have tried several, and I can honestly tell you that I hate them all. Yeah, I hate hiking boots. I cannot stand them. So I will pretty much use my runners anywhere that I possibly can and avoid hiking boots as much as humanly possible. They just do not seem to work well for my feet. There's always slippage somewhere. The only one I've ever found that fit my foot really good, and I do need to just bite the bullet and buy another pair because they are super expensive. They're like $250 plus boots, and if I remember right, they only lasted me like a season, so it didn't seem like a very good value for the shoe, but it was the Lowa Inox, I-N-N-O-X boot. So it's kind of like a tennis shoe style boot, and it was just really comfortable. It was waterproof when I first got it, and now I don't even know what size I would wear, but I wore those ones out when I took them on a trip, so that's the long story short of that. But those are my absolute favorites right now. Pretty much the Ultra runners, which I never thought would honestly be my thing, but now they are. How do you decide on footwear, and what's your favorite hiking shoe right now? Let me know in the comments, and happy trails.